What they don't tell you about living your best life.
I'm Kaylia.
I'm Jake.
And we are the Vaydas.
We are striving to live differently in our lives, and this one piece of advice / wisdom that we probably received about 2 years ago changed the trajectory of our lives entirely.
It did. A few years back, I started noticing the people around me started to disappear. And I've been at this one place, working at the same place. This is basically my community for years and years and years.
How many years? 7? Something like that?
No, like 10.
Wow.
At least 10.
There you go.
So it's a long time. So I just, saw people come and go, 1 year, 2 years, whatever. And I'm like, there's something I feel very strongly about. Like there's value in what I'm sticking out to do, but I'm also noticing like the fallouts happening around me and why, what does that really mean? Like what's happening?
So I used to run on the beach a lot when I was trying to get ripped so I could be impressive for Kaylia.
Yeah.
Which was working. I was doing pretty well for myself.
Yeah.
But I was running on the beach in Imperial Beach, which is in San Diego, south of San Diego. And as I was running on this beach, there's this part where I couldn't see on the other side. And it was rocks and some water, but I noticed literally 50, 100 people before me saw it and then turned the other way going back to where they came from. It's too uncomfortable. Nope. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm already going. I'm seeing some success. Just because there's a bump in the road doesn't mean I should stop, whatever. So like I'm going through the rocks and it's uncomfortable and up to my knee I get wet and it was frustrating. But as soon as I get to the other side, I can finally see that there's a whole mile of beach that nobody was on. It was like a free beach for me. And it was amazing because I was like, this is so crazy. Other people turn around, but I stuck through enough to see the free beach. And I was running on the beach, crying. Just kidding. Just doing my thing.
Like a movie.
Yeah. So that was probably the first time I realized this lesson.
The lesson is consistency over intensity. I really believe personally that if you kind of stick to one thing, like I have been for over 10 years, that it really breeds a lot of value, just that longevity of just sticking it out. And even if the rocks come, like Jake was saying, I'm not gonna turn around, I'm not gonna jump out of the boat, but maybe sit and really try to process and understand, okay, even when the rocks are coming, like what do I wanna do? What is my invitation here? And I've learned all the relationships that I've built over the 10 years. Like imagine like the community and the influence and the opportunities that come because you actually stick it out. And there are way less opportunities when you're like jumping around from 6 months to a year to even a year and a half, maybe even 2. But once you get past that 2-year mark, I feel like, sounds fair, something really cool and beautiful starts happening there.
The average stint for a student pastor, which is my role at the church that I work for, is about 1.2 years up to 1.5 years. In other words, about 18 months. And then young people like me decide, okay, maybe there's a different career choice, which is totally fine. But other people, maybe it gets difficult or they don't get a raise when they want a raise, or something goes awry in one relationship and then they say, I'm going to jump ship. And for those circumstances, I noticed that they often miss out on an opportunity. About 2.5 years into my job, I was working with some other people who were amazing at their job and probably better than me. And they were just on the job for about 1.5 years at that point, 18 months. And they're all awesome and I'm friends with them now. One thing I was noticing at that point was that I was succeeding at a rate that they weren't, not because of my gifts, but because of the longevity in the career that I was at versus them. They actually were probably more gifted than me, but they just didn't get the relational equity yet that I had because of the years and the tenure that I had. And that was only 2.5 years. So with that said, I decided, shoot, I'm going to actually dedicate myself even more so to this as long as the money works out, right? And you feel called to it and there's opportunity for growth. I was like, I'm going to actually stick to this. And I'm now 4 years in and it's probably the best thing I've ever done and the most influence I've ever had. And I absolutely would not have had this if I moved to another place 2 years in.
Just like any meaningful thing that you're doing, it's going to take a lot of reps. So why not do the same thing or think about that in the same way as your career?
As we're talking about consistency over intensity, choose your sacrifice. Choose the thing that you're gonna say, no matter how much I'm feeling that I want to leave, no matter how bad this is or how frustrating this is, that I'm just gonna sacrifice a part of me right now to stick through it so I can get to that free beach later on down the road. You're probably right now going through the rocks or with water halfway up to your knee and you're sludging through and it's hard. It's like, this is the sacrifice that we're willing to do so that we can get the opportunities later on down the road.
Right. So here's our question for you. What are you going to dedicate yourself to in the long term?
Ooh, yes. So write that down below, comment down below. I'm very interested to see what you're dedicating yourself to in the long term. But yes, living your best life takes consistency over intensity.
Come on, babe. Hard work.